Well, with me now is Karim Gohary from BBC Arabic. Nice to see you, Karim. What's the latest development in this? Because there have been protests on the streets of Yemen, haven't they? I think they've called it the volcano of rage.
That's true, yes. There have been protests in central Sana'a, in the capital, against these airstrikes that killed at least 140 people and over 500 injured. There's also been a lot of calls for retaliation attacks. So, for example, the very powerful ex-president Ali Abdullah Saleh, who's an ally, a very close ally to the Houthi rebels, has called for retaliation. He's called for the Houthis and any of their armed personnel to actually increase their attacks on the Saudi border, which is to the north of Yemen. So that's mainly the developments that have happened. On the other side, of course, there's a lot of, concern from the UN, from the US, from the UK as well. The Foreign Office has said that it's deeply concerned by the targeting of this funeral, and that the investigation the Saudis have spoken about needs to, happen very, very quickly. To come about with the details of why this happened and the targeting of civilians, in a sense.
In terms of the investigation, many people, well, some comments have been made about the funeral attendees, and there were military heads there. Would this have then made it a viable target for Saudi Arabia?
Well, the funeral was for the father of the rebel-appointed Minister of Interior. It's unclear if the minister himself was there, but it was obvious that a lot of military and security personnel, as well as civilians, were there. Now, whether or not it was a viable target, I suppose the fact that there were so many civilians there will make that questionable. The Saudis have said they do not target civilians. However, they have been criticized in the past for suspected attacks against locations that included civilians. One of them was in last September, for example, a wedding where 131 people were killed in the southwest of the country. So the investigation, I suppose, in cooperation with the US, will bring about some clarity as to what the target was supposed to be exactly. It's interesting, I suppose, the fact that the Saudis initially denied it, but then when talk from the United States that it was going to review its cooperation with the Saudi kingdom, that it was then said, all right, we're going to cooperate, we're going to open an investigation with the US to see all that's going on. And this is, again, a strain on the relationship between the US and Saudi Arabia, I think.
Just talk us through that relationship. There have been comments from the US, also from the UK. What is that relationship like in terms of the Yemen conflict?
There's the UK and the US, as well as other European powers, back the Saudi coalition, because the Saudi coalition's main ally is the internationally recognized government of President Abdurrabbu Mansour Hadi that was more or less pushed out of the country by the Houthis, who took over the capital. And since March of last year, the Saudis, along with about 9 other Arab countries, are involved in this coalition. Of course, the Saudis are the main player. The relationship has been, there's arms relationship, there's military cooperation between the US and the Saudi coalition, as well as, of course, the Saudi government imports a lot of arms from the UK and from the US. So there'll be, there's been a lot of activists who have said this needs to change now. The fact that civilians are 2/3 of everybody who's been killed in the Yemen conflict are civilians. So there's a lot of pressure on the US, UK and other European governments who provide Saudi Arabia with arms to look into that again. And I believe the UK Secretary of Defence has actually said that if civilians were the target of this attack, that the UK's licence to sell arms to the Saudi Arabian government will have to be looked into again.
And where are we in terms of the conflict, the civil war? Because a lot of it was about retaking cities and territory. Where are we with that?
Well, the push for a ceasefire collapsed in August, and since then the attacks have continued. So the internationally backed government is still in the south, still controls Aden. Sana'a and other large parts of the country are still in control of the Houthis, as well as their main ally, the former president, and of course the militias that they control. Now, the peace process is the main problem. There were efforts again in August to try and bring both sides back to the negotiating table. However, that broke down, and now the situation just seems to be escalating. Even the UN said that the civilian toll has gone up in just those 2 months to very large figures. We're talking about 10,000 people dead, 3 million or so displaced, 21 million who are in need of urgent humanitarian aid. So all that's kind of really making the situation very difficult for Yemenis.
Karim Gohary, thank you very much.